What happens when a respected airline captain reveals his true nature at 30,000 feet? When he calls a successful black woman a monkey in first class? Not knowing her husband sitting right beside her is the CEO of the very airline employing him? Today, we witness a story of instant justice that will restore your faith in karma. Stay tuned to the end to see how one moment of racism destroys an entire corruption conspiracy within the aviation industry. This is a tale of power, prejudice, and the sweet taste of immediate retribution that will leave you cheering. The luxurious first-class cabin of Skyline Airways Flight 782 hums quietly as it cruises from New York to Los Angeles. Soft LED lighting bathes the spacious compartment in warm amber tones, while genuine leather seats recline in perfect comfort. Crystal glasses catch the light from individual reading lamps, and the gentle whir of engines provides a soothing backdrop to an atmosphere of refined elegance. The cabin's design reflects Skyline's commitment to excellence. Polished wood accents, brushed metal fixtures, and seats that convert into fully flat beds for transcontinental comfort. In Seat 2A sits Sophia Williams, a 42-year-old Harvard MBA who serves as marketing director for Technova Corporation, one of Silicon Valley's fastest-growing companies. Her tailored navy blazer speaks to her professional success, while her warm smile reflects the joy of this special journey. Diamond earrings catch the cabin light as she moves, a gift from Marcus on their 5th anniversary. She thumbs through quarterly reports with practiced efficiency, occasionally sipping Dom Perignon as she prepares for Monday's crucial board presentation that could secure a $50 million expansion budget. Sophia's rise through corporate America wasn't easy. Growing up in Atlanta as the daughter of a school teacher and a postal worker, she earned scholarships through academic excellence and sheer determination. Her MBA thesis on multicultural marketing strategies caught the attention of Technova's founders, launching a career that has seen her develop campaigns for Fortune 500 companies across 3 continents. Beside her in 2B, Marcus Thompson adjusts his reading glasses while reviewing acquisition documents. At 45, this soft-spoken entrepreneur has built Skyline Airways from a regional carrier into a major player, owning 60% of the company's shares. His recent $2 billion acquisition of Atlantic Regional has solidified Skyline's position as America's 4th largest airline, though few outside the boardroom would recognize his unassuming face. Marcus grew up in modest circumstances in Detroit, where his father worked assembly lines at Ford while his mother cleaned office buildings at night. A scholarship to Northwestern University opened doors that seemed impossible from his working-class neighborhood. He met Sophia during their graduate programs, she at Harvard, he at Wharton, when both participated in a joint business case competition. This flight marks their 10th wedding anniversary celebration. They've just returned from a romantic week in Tuscany, where they renewed their vows in a small vineyard ceremony attended only by the villa's staff as witnesses. Both wear simple gold bands that catch the cabin light as they reach for each other's hands across the armrest. Sophia's ring bears an inscription Marcus had engraved. "Together we soar." "Remember when we could only afford coach tickets to visit your parents?" Sophia whispers, squeezing Marcus's fingers. "You insisted on buying me the window seat even though it cost $20 extra." He chuckles softly, memories flooding back to their early years when every expense required careful consideration. "Now look at us. Flying first class on our own airline, and you still insist on working during vacation. Some things never change." Their love story began with fierce academic rivalry that gradually transformed into mutual respect and deep affection. When Marcus started Skyline with inherited money from his grandmother and a small business loan, Sophia provided the marketing strategy that helped the airline grow from 3 leased planes to a fleet of over 120 aircraft serving 47 cities. The couple deliberately maintains low profiles, preferring to travel as ordinary passengers rather than announce their presence to crew members. Marcus believes this gives him authentic insights into customer experience, while Sophia enjoys the anonymity that lets her observe real consumer behavior without the artificial courtesy that accompanies recognition. I still can't believe we pulled off the Atlantic acquisition, Marcus murmurs, reviewing the final paperwork one more time. 3 years of negotiations, and it came down to a handshake in a conference room in Atlanta. Sophia smiles proudly. Your grandmother would be amazed to see what you built with her $20,000 inheritance, from 3 planes to a major airline empire. Today, they simply want to savor these quiet moments together before returning to their demanding schedules. Marcus faces congressional hearings about airline industry consolidation, while Sophia prepares to launch Technova's expansion into European markets. Neither anticipates that this peaceful flight will become a defining moment in their lives and careers, transforming them from private individuals into public symbols of justice and corporate responsibility. 25 minutes into the flight, as the aircraft reaches its cruising altitude of 37,000 feet, Sophia notices her reading light beginning to flicker erratically. The intermittent flashing creates an annoying strobe effect that makes it impossible to focus on her quarterly analysis documents. She squints against the irregular pattern, then presses the call button with a slight frown of annoyance. Within moments, flight attendant Jennifer Martinez appears with a professional smile. At 28, Jennifer has worked for Skyline for 6 years, earning recognition for exceptional customer service. Her warm demeanor and fluent Spanish have made her popular with diverse passengers, and she takes pride in representing her company well. How can I help you, Mrs. Williams? The reading light seems to be malfunctioning, Sophia explains, gesturing toward the fixture above her seat. It keeps flickering on and off every few seconds. I'm trying to review some important documents, but the strobe effect is quite distracting. Jennifer examines the light fixture carefully, toggling the switch several times in succession. The bulb continues its irregular flashing pattern, occasionally staying dark for 10 or 15 seconds before resuming its erratic behavior with renewed intensity. The inconsistent lighting creates shadows that dance across Sophia's paperwork. I'm terribly sorry about this inconvenience, Jennifer says apologetically. Let me see if I can adjust the connection behind the panel. She attempts to manipulate the light housing, pressing gently on different areas around the fixture and trying various switch combinations. Despite her efforts, the problem persists and might even be worsening. The flickering becomes more rapid, creating an almost nauseating effect for anyone trying to read beneath it. I'll need to call our maintenance specialist, Jennifer concludes reluctantly. Captain Sullivan has experience with these electrical issues. We should be able to fix this quickly and get you back to your work. Jennifer disappears toward the front of the cabin, speaking quietly into her wireless headset. Sophia returns to her documents with determination, though the continuing flicker proves increasingly challenging. She tries shielding the pages with her hand, but the irregular lighting makes concentration nearly impossible. Marcus glances over with growing concern as he watches his wife struggle with the malfunctioning equipment. This is ridiculous, honey. Maybe we should ask them to move you to another seat. There are several empty spots in row 4. It's fine, really, Sophia replies, though frustration creeps into her voice. I'm sure they'll sort it out soon. Besides, I don't want to make a fuss over something so minor. Marcus admires his wife's patience, but recognizes her need to complete the presentation review. The Technova board meeting could determine whether the company expands internationally or remains focused on domestic markets. Sophia has spent months preparing the analysis, and she rarely gets uninterrupted time to review complex data. 5 minutes later, the cockpit door opens with a soft, hydraulic hiss. Captain Derek Sullivan emerges, cutting an impressive figure in his crisp uniform complete with 4 gold stripes indicating his senior captain status. At 52, he commands respect throughout the aviation industry with his silver hair, confident bearing, and an array of service pins spanning 25 years of commercial flying. His uniform is immaculate, from his perfectly knotted tie to his polished black shoes. Sullivan immediately recognizes Marcus from company meetings and executive events. Though they've never spoken extensively, the captain knows exactly who signs his paychecks and approves his generous salary. His chest swells with pride at this unexpected opportunity to impress the CEO during a chance encounter at 37,000 feet. Passengers often feel reassured seeing such an experienced pilot in command of their aircraft. Sullivan's reputation in aviation circles is stellar. Safety commendations, perfect attendance records, and glowing evaluations from supervisors. His personnel file contains letters of appreciation from grateful passengers and commendations from industry organizations. "Good afternoon, Mr. Thompson," Sullivan says with practiced charm, extending his hand with a firm grip. "Captain Derek Sullivan at your service. What an honor to have you aboard my aircraft today. I trust you're enjoying the flight so far." Marcus shakes the offered hand, politely, though he feels slightly uncomfortable with the deferential treatment. He prefers when employees treat him as just another passenger rather than the company owner. "Thank you, Captain Sullivan. Everything's been excellent so far. Your crew provides outstanding service." Sullivan's chest swells with pride at the compliment from his ultimate boss. "We always strive to provide the finest service in the industry, sir. Skyline sets the standard that other airlines aspire to reach. Is there anything special I can do to ensure your continued comfort during the remainder of our flight?" "Actually, my wife's reading light has been flickering persistently," Marcus explains. "Your flight attendant mentioned you might be able to help resolve the issue." "Ah, yes. I heard Jennifer's report over the intercom," Sullivan responds confidently. "Minor electrical issue, nothing that can't be sorted out quickly. These older aircraft sometimes develop quirks in their lighting systems. Let me take a personal look." Sullivan moves toward Sophia's seat with the assured confidence of someone accustomed to solving problems efficiently. His demeanor shifts subtly as he focuses on her for the first time, though the change is barely perceptible to casual observers. Something in his expression hardens almost imperceptibly as he registers her race and processes her proximity to his CEO. He fidgets with the light switch methodically, creating the same ineffective results Jennifer achieved earlier. The flickering continues unabated, casting irregular shadows across Sophia's workspace and the expensive leather upholstery. Sullivan tries various combinations, quick taps, longer presses, holding the switch in intermediate positions, but nothing changes the erratic pattern. After 2 minutes of unsuccessful troubleshooting, Sullivan steps back with a dismissive chuckle, shaking his head as though dealing with nothing more than a trivial inconvenience that hardly warrants serious attention. "Well, this is quite interesting," he says, turning back toward Marcus with a conspiratorial grin that suggests shared understanding between men of similar status. The smile carries an ugly undercurrent that makes nearby passengers unconsciously uncomfortable. "Can't have a monkey getting scared by a few flickering lights, can we?" The words hang in the pressurized air like a toxic cloud. Time seems suspended as the casual cruelty of the statement registers throughout the cabin. Sophia's Mont Blanc pen freezes mid-sentence as she processes what she's just heard. Her breath catches in her throat, and she looks up at Sullivan with a mixture of shock, disbelief, and growing anger. The captain continues to smile broadly, apparently unaware of the emotional devastation he's just inflicted. In his mind, he's made a clever observation that demonstrates his casual familiarity with racial humor. The kind of comment he assumes successful white men share when they believe they're among like-minded company. Sullivan actually chuckles again, the sound grating against the cabin's previous tranquility. "I mean, she should probably get used to civilized lighting systems, don't you think, Mr. Thompson? These people usually aren't accustomed to such sophisticated accommodations." The surrounding passengers fall into stunned silence. A businessman across the aisle stops typing on his MacBook Pro and stares in disbelief. An elderly woman lowers her copy of The Economist with trembling hands. Everyone within earshot struggles to process the stunning inappropriateness of the captain's comments and the casual confidence with which he delivered them. Sophia feels heat rising in her cheeks as decades of similar insults flood back through memory. But her voice remains steady and controlled when she finally speaks, drawing on years of boardroom experience dealing with difficult personalities. "Excuse me, Captain." Sullivan glances down at her with mild surprise, as though he'd momentarily forgotten she could hear and respond to his commentary. "Oh, it's nothing personal, miss. Just making conversation with Mr. Thompson here. Surely you understand that men sometimes discuss things that don't concern you." The condescension in his tone compounds the original insult. He's not only reduced her to a racial stereotype, but now dismisses her right to participate in conversations about her own treatment. Other passengers begin shifting uncomfortably in their seats, recognizing they're witnessing something that will likely have serious consequences. Marcus sits frozen in his leather seat, his mind struggling to process what he's just witnessed. The man entrusted with their safety, the professional representative of his own company, has just reduced his accomplished wife to a racist caricature. And he did it casually, confidently, as though sharing an amusing observation between friends who would naturally appreciate such humor. The silence stretches uncomfortably as other passengers begin to comprehend the magnitude of what's unfolding. Someone in row 6 quietly retrieves their iPhone, sensing that something historically significant is developing. The atmosphere in the cabin has transformed from relaxed luxury to tense anticipation, like the moments before a thunderstorm breaks. Sullivan remains oblivious to the emotional devastation he's caused, still wearing that self-satisfied expression as he waits for Marcus to appreciate his wit. In his delusional mind, he's demonstrated loyalty to his CEO by dismissing the concerns of someone he clearly considers beneath their elevated station. Marcus rises slowly from his seat, his movements deliberate and controlled, like a predator preparing to strike. The transformation in his demeanor is remarkable and terrifying. Gone is the relaxed vacationer enjoying champagne with his wife. In his place stands a corporate executive who has just witnessed an unforgivable violation of everything he holds sacred. His voice, when it finally comes, carries the weight of absolute authority earned through years of building an empire from nothing. "Captain Sullivan." The pilot turns expectantly, his confident smile still intact as he anticipates approval or perhaps shared amusement at his clever observation. His chest remains puffed with pride at having entertained his ultimate boss with what he considers sophisticated humor. "Yes, Mr. Thompson. I hope we can get that light situation resolved for you shortly. You just called my wife a monkey." The words hit Sullivan like a physical blow to the solar plexus. His confident expression crumbles instantly as the magnitude of his error begins to penetrate his consciousness. The color drains from his face as he realizes the catastrophic nature of his mistake. His mouth opens and closes without producing sound as his brain struggles to process the career-ending implications of what he's just learned. "Mr. Thompson, I didn't realize." "You didn't realize what, Captain?" Marcus steps closer, his voice gaining intensity while maintaining an eerily calm tone that's somehow more frightening than shouting would be. "You didn't realize that the woman you just called an animal happens to be my wife? Or you didn't realize that calling any human being a monkey is completely unacceptable regardless of their relationship to me?" Sophia remains seated but turns to face the confrontation fully, her hands steady now as her professional composure returns. She's witnessed Marcus handle difficult business negotiations before, but never with this level of controlled fury. Her heart swells with pride and love as she watches her husband defend her honor without reservation. Other passengers lean forward in their seats, recognizing they're witnessing something extraordinary that will likely be discussed for years to come. The businessman across the aisle has activated his phone's camera while the elderly woman clutches her magazine with white knuckles. Sullivan's hands begin to shake as sweat beads on his forehead despite the cabin's perfect climate control. His 25-year career flashes before his eyes as he grasps the enormity of his situation. "Sir, I sincerely apologize from the bottom of my heart. I misspoke terribly. I didn't mean anything by it. Please, you have to understand." "Understand what?" Marcus interrupts, his voice rising slightly for the first time. "Help me understand, Captain Sullivan. Explain to me what exactly you meant when you looked at my wife, a Harvard-educated executive who probably earns more in a year than you make in 3. And the first thing that entered your mind was to compare her to an animal." The captain's attempts at damage control become increasingly desperate as he realizes the futility of his position. "Mr. Thompson, please, sir. I've served this airline faithfully for 25 years without a single major incident. I've never had a discrimination complaint filed against me. This was completely out of character." "Out of character?" Sophia finally speaks, her voice carrying the dignified strength that has propelled her through countless boardroom battles with men who underestimated her. Captain Sullivan, the problem isn't that this was out of character. The problem is that this reveals your true character. You felt comfortable enough to say those words because you believed you were in the company of someone who would share your sentiments. Her words land with devastating accuracy. Sullivan realizes that his attempt to bond with the CEO through shared prejudice has backfired spectacularly. He'd assumed that Marcus, as a wealthy white man, would appreciate casual racism directed at someone Sullivan perceived as an interloper in first-class accommodations. Marcus nods approvingly at his wife's insight before turning his full attention back to Sullivan. Sophia is absolutely right, Captain. You revealed exactly who you are in that moment. You thought you were safe to express your real feelings because you assumed I would share them or at least tolerate them. The captain's voice cracks with growing desperation as he attempts to salvage 25 years of career investment. Sir, please. I have a family depending on me. A mortgage payment, kids in college, a wife who doesn't work. This is my entire livelihood. Surely we can discuss this privately and work out some kind of understanding. Your family situation is unfortunate, Marcus replies coldly, pulling out his iPhone with deliberate precision. But it doesn't excuse racism, and it doesn't give you the right to insult my wife in front of me. Your employment ended the moment you decided to reveal your character. Marcus dials a number from his contacts list as the entire cabin watches in fascination. Ms. Rodriguez, this is Marcus Thompson calling from Flight 782. I need you to contact Human Resources immediately and initiate termination procedures for Captain Derek Sullivan, employee number 47926, effective immediately for gross violation of our anti-discrimination policies. Jennifer Martinez reappears at the front of the cabin, drawn by the commotion and raised voices. Her eyes widen in shock as she realizes what's unfolding between the company's owner and one of their most senior pilots. Several passengers have now activated their phone cameras, sensing the historic nature of this confrontation. Sullivan's voice rises to near hysteria as the reality of his situation fully crystallizes. Sir, surely we can discuss this like reasonable men. I'll attend sensitivity training immediately. I'll make a public apology. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Please, Mr. Thompson, I'm begging you. The time for reasonable discussion ended when you called my wife a monkey. Marcus replies with finality. Did you think I would laugh at your joke? Did you expect me to congratulate you on your wit? What exactly did you imagine my response would be? Sophia watches her husband with growing admiration as he handles the situation with both strength and dignity. Captain Sullivan, you need to understand something important. The problem isn't that you need sensitivity training. The problem is that you felt comfortable enough to express those thoughts at all. That tells us everything we need to know about your fundamental character. The captain makes one final desperate attempt to appeal to Marcus's business instincts. Mr. Thompson, think about the publicity this will generate. The media attention, the potential lawsuits, the disruption to your company's operations. Is it really worth destroying my career over a momentary lapse in judgment? Marcus's response comes swift and decisive. Captain Sullivan, my company's reputation will be enhanced by demonstrating that we don't tolerate discrimination from anyone, regardless of their seniority or service record. And this wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This was a revelation of your true beliefs. He continues his phone conversation with Human Resources, his voice carrying clearly throughout the cabin. Yes, that's correct. Immediate termination for discriminatory conduct. Security should be waiting when we land at LAX. He'll be escorted from airport property and banned from all skyline facilities. Sullivan's shoulders sag in complete defeat as 25 years of career achievement evaporates in real time. His pension, his reputation, his professional relationships, all destroyed by 30 seconds of casual cruelty that revealed his true nature to the worst possible audience. A passenger in row 4 has been recording the entire exchange on her smartphone. She uploads the video to TikTok before Sullivan has even processed his termination, adding the caption, CEO fires racist pilot mid-flight after he called the CEO's wife a monkey. Justice served at 30,000 feet. This is what accountability looks like. As Sullivan retreats toward the cockpit with his tail between his legs, the cabin erupts in whispered conversations. Passengers turn to each other, sharing their shock and admiration for Marcus's decisive response. Someone begins a slow clap that gradually spreads throughout the first-class section, creating a wave of approval that validates the couple's dignity under fire. Jennifer approaches Marcus and Sophia with genuine concern and professional embarrassment. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, I am deeply sorry this happened on our aircraft. This behavior is completely unacceptable and doesn't represent Skyline's values in any way. Is there anything we can do to make the rest of your flight more comfortable?" Sophia manages a grateful smile despite the emotional toll of the encounter. "Thank you, Jennifer. Just knowing that actions have immediate consequences is comfort enough. Your response has been exemplary." Marcus retakes his seat, his hand immediately finding Sophia's for mutual support. The adrenaline from the confrontation is beginning to fade, replaced by a complex mixture of anger, sadness, and pride that such a public stand was necessary but successful. As the aircraft continues its westward journey toward Los Angeles, neither Marcus nor Sophia realizes that this moment will soon reshape their entire industry and transform them from private individuals into symbols of corporate accountability and social justice. The reading light continues to flicker overhead, but somehow it no longer seems important. Within 2 hours of the aircraft touching down at Los Angeles International Airport, the smartphone video has exploded across every major social media platform like wildfire. The original TikTok post gains 100,000 views in the first hour, shared by users who tag it with phrases like, "Justice served," "CEO stands up for his wife," "Racism has consequences," and "This is how you handle bigots." The video's reach expands exponentially as celebrities, politicians, and influencers amplify the message across their networks. By evening, major television networks are leading their broadcasts with the headline, "Airline CEO fires racist pilot mid-flight after slur against his wife." The video plays on repeat across CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and network evening news programs, with commentators from across the political spectrum praising Marcus's swift and decisive action while universally condemning Sullivan's behavior. The story transcends typical partisan divisions as viewers unite in support of basic human decency. The public response proves overwhelmingly supportive, with comment sections flooding with personal stories from travelers sharing their own experiences with discrimination. Aviation professionals express gratitude that industry leadership finally took meaningful action against workplace racism. Social media hashtags like #JusticeIt, "First Class," "Skyline Stands Up," and "Racism has consequences" begin trending nationally, with millions of posts supporting the Thompsons. Financial markets respond immediately and positively to the incident. Skyline's stock price jumps 12% in after-hours trading as investors interpret the swift response as evidence of strong corporate governance and clear ethical leadership. Booking inquiries increase dramatically as travelers seek airlines that demonstrate unambiguous values, while corporate travel departments begin shifting contracts towards Skyline for similar reasons. For Derek Sullivan, the consequences prove devastating and immediate. By the time his Uber reaches his modest ranch-style home in suburban Phoenix, reporters have already gathered on his front lawn like vultures circling wounded prey. Television news vans line the quiet residential street, while neighbors peer through curtains at the unfolding spectacle. His wife, Linda, meets him at the front door with tears streaming down her face and a stack of termination papers from Southwest Airlines, where she worked as a reservation agent for 12 years. Her hands shake as she holds the documents that represent the collapse of their carefully planned future. "They fired me too, Derek," she whispers as camera crews capture their reunion through telephoto lenses. "My supervisor called an hour ago. Said they couldn't employ the wife of someone who brought such negative attention to the aviation industry. They said my association with you creates a hostile work environment for other employees." Their adult children learn about their father's disgrace through social media notifications before he can explain or prepare them for the fallout. His son, Jake, calls from Arizona State University, his voice tight with anger and embarrassment. "Dad, how could you say something like that? Do you have any idea how this reflects on our entire family? My roommate showed me the video. I can't even show my face in the dorm." Sullivan's aviation license comes under immediate review by Federal Aviation Administration regulators who cite the incident as evidence of unfitness for command responsibilities. Within a week, 3 major airlines revoked job offers he had been quietly exploring for post-retirement consulting work. His professional reputation, carefully built over 2.5 decades, crumbles in a matter of days as industry contacts distance themselves from the controversy. The family's financial situation deteriorates with shocking speed. Without Linda's $40,000 annual income and facing mounting legal bills for the wrongful termination lawsuit he's desperately considering, they fall behind on their mortgage payments within the first month. Sullivan finds himself applying for minimum wage positions at Home Depot, McDonald's, and local gas stations, though many managers recognize his face from the viral video and decline to hire him. "I'm sorry, but we can't risk the negative publicity," explains a Walmart hiring manager who has seen the video multiple times. "Our customers include families from all backgrounds, and we can't have someone with your reputation representing our company." Meanwhile, Sophia processes the emotional aftermath with characteristic grace and strategic thinking. She grants interviews to major publications including the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Harvard Business Review, using each platform to address broader issues of workplace discrimination and the critical importance of corporate accountability. Her eloquence and dignity in discussing the painful incident further elevate public support for the couple while advancing important conversations about systemic racism. "This wasn't about revenge or personal satisfaction," she tells CNN's Anderson Cooper during a primetime interview. "This was about ensuring that no other person has to endure such treatment while traveling or working in any professional environment." When people in positions of authority feel comfortable expressing racist views publicly, it creates a culture where discrimination flourishes unchecked. Marcus also speaks extensively about his decision to terminate Sullivan immediately rather than pursuing progressive discipline or additional training. "Some actions are so fundamentally wrong that they require immediate consequences," he explains to CNBC's financial reporters. "There's no middle ground when it comes to basic human dignity." Captain Sullivan revealed his true character in that moment, and character determines how someone performs every aspect of their job. Industry publications run comprehensive features analyzing the incident's broader impact on airline culture and customer relations. Professional pilot associations release carefully worded statements condemning discriminatory behavior while emphasizing that Sullivan's actions don't represent the values of commercial aviation. Meanwhile, aviation diversity groups praise Skyline's response as a model for other companies struggling with workplace inclusion issues. The story becomes a case study in business schools nationwide about crisis management, corporate values, and stakeholder capitalism. Harvard Business School, Sophia's alma mater, invites the couple to speak at a special seminar about leadership under pressure and the business case for diversity and inclusion. Sullivan attempts damage control through a carefully staged, televised apology on Phoenix's ABC affiliate. Sitting beside his devastated wife in their modest living room surrounded by family photos, he reads from a statement prepared by his attorney. "I deeply regret my words and actions during Flight 782. They do not reflect my true beliefs or the values I try to instill in my children throughout their lives. I ask for forgiveness from Mrs. Thompson, the African-American community, and everyone who was hurt by my inexcusable behavior." The apology falls completely flat with the public and media commentators. Social media users immediately point out that Sullivan only expressed regret after facing severe consequences, not when he realized his error or had opportunities to apologize privately. Comment sections fill with skepticism about the sincerity of his contrition, with many noting that authentic remorse would have prevented the incident entirely. 3 weeks after the viral incident, Sullivan and Linda receive eviction notices on both their family home and Linda's small catering business, which has lost most of its clients due to negative association. Local news outlets cover their potential homelessness as a cautionary tale about the lasting consequences of racist behavior, though public sympathy remains minimal. The Thompsons, meanwhile, leverage their elevated platform and increased visibility to announce significant new initiatives at Skyline Airways. They establish a $10 million diversity and inclusion fund, create comprehensive mentorship programs for underrepresented aviation professionals, and implement enhanced training protocols that go far beyond typical corporate requirements. The company's reputation emerges stronger than ever, with booking inquiries increasing 23% as conscious consumers seek airlines that demonstrate clear, actionable values rather than empty corporate rhetoric. 3 weeks after the viral incident captures national attention, investigator James Carter from the Department of Transportation receives a file that will consume the next 2 months of his career. A former FBI agent with 15 years of experience uncovering corporate fraud, Carter specializes in identifying systemic problems within heavily regulated industries. His weathered face bears the marks of countless late nights spent analyzing financial records and personnel files, while his methodical approach has earned respect throughout the federal aviation oversight community. Carter's office in downtown Los Angeles resembles a detective's war room, with whiteboards covered in organizational charts and timelines spanning multiple walls. His desk disappears beneath stacks of personnel files, financial documents, and transcribed interviews as he begins what will become the most comprehensive investigation in Skyline Airways' corporate history. His initial review of Sullivan's personnel file reveals patterns that should have triggered red flags years earlier. 15 formal complaints about discriminatory behavior spanning just 3 years, all mysteriously resolved with minimal investigation and confidential settlement agreements that prevented public disclosure. The complainants include flight attendants reporting inappropriate racial comments, ground crew members describing hostile work environments, and even passengers who formally reported disturbing interactions with Sullivan during flights. "This doesn't make any sense whatsoever," Carter mutters to himself while spreading documents across his cramped office desk. These complaints follow identical resolution patterns, down to the specific language used in settlement agreements. Someone was systematically burying these reports with bureaucratic precision. His investigation reveals that every single complaint against Sullivan was processed through the same human resources representative, Richard Blackstone, Skyline's Vice President of Human Resources and Marcus's most trusted lieutenant for over 20 years. Blackstone's signature appears on settlement agreements totaling over $400,000 in just the past 18 months, with individual payments ranging from $15,000 to $50,000, depending on the severity of allegations. Carter discovers a pattern of intimidation tactics used against complainants. Employees who filed reports suddenly found themselves assigned to undesirable routes, subjected to increased scrutiny of their performance, or excluded from advancement opportunities. Several eventually quit rather than endure continued harassment, accepting modest severance packages in exchange for non-disclosure agreements. Carter schedules a meeting with Marcus and Sophia at Skyline's corporate headquarters, housed in a gleaming glass tower that reflects the company's remarkable success. The Los Angeles office complex spans 4 floors of premium downtown real estate, but the mood in Marcus's executive conference room is somber as Carter presents his preliminary findings. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, I believe Captain Sullivan's behavior represents something much more troubling than an isolated incident involving one problematic employee," Carter explains, sliding thick folders across the polished mahogany table. "These documents suggest a systematic cover-up of discriminatory practices that has been operating within your organization for several years." Sophia examines the complaint files with growing horror, her marketing expertise immediately recognizing the coordinated nature of the responses. "Marcus, look at these dates carefully. Some of these incidents happened while we were publicly launching our diversity initiatives last year. How did we not know about any of this systematic misconduct?" Marcus's face hardens with betrayal and anger as he reads through settlement agreements bearing Blackstone's authorization. Richard has been his right-hand man since the company's earliest days, handling sensitive personnel matters with what Marcus believed was appropriate discretion and fairness. Richard has been managing all sensitive HR matters for years. I trusted him completely to handle these issues with integrity and professionalism. Carter leans forward across the conference table, his investigator's instincts fully engaged after years of uncovering corporate malfeasance. Sir, with all due respect, these situations weren't handled with integrity. They were systematically buried through financial coercion and bureaucratic intimidation. The pattern strongly suggests someone was protecting certain employees from appropriate consequences. The investigation expands rapidly as Carter interviews dozens of former employees, reviews years of financial records, and analyzes communication patterns within the organization. He discovers that Blackstone maintained extensive informal networks of information among pilots, flight attendants, and ground staff across multiple airports. Employees who demonstrated personal loyalty to Blackstone rather than company policies received favorable schedules, choice route assignments, and protection from disciplinary action regardless of their behavior. It's essentially a shadow organization operating within your legitimate company structure, Carter explains during a follow-up meeting filled with evidence boards and detailed timelines. Blackstone created a system where certain employees could operate with complete impunity as long as they supported his personal authority structure and fed him information about their colleagues. The scope of the corruption becomes clear when Carter uncovers evidence of extensive financial irregularities beyond the settlement payments. Blackstone approved questionable consulting contracts with companies owned by his relatives, manipulated overtime assignments to benefit his political allies, and directly influenced hiring decisions to build his power base within the organization rather than serve company interests. Carter presents his comprehensive report to the Thompsons 6 weeks after beginning his investigation. The document spans over 200 pages and includes recorded phone conversations, financial analysis, and testimony from 37 current and former employees. Mr. Thompson, this goes far beyond individual prejudice or isolated incidents, Carter concludes gravely. Mr. Blackstone constructed an elaborate system that rewarded discrimination and punished those who spoke out against it. Captain Sullivan was just one beneficiary of this protection network, but there are others who have escaped accountability for years. The emergency board meeting convenes on a gray Thursday morning in Skyline's executive conference room on the 42nd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows provide panoramic views of the Los Angeles skyline, but the atmosphere inside feels heavy with betrayal and impending confrontation. Marcus sits at the head of the custom mahogany table, flanked by 6 independent board members who have spent the previous evening reviewing Carter's devastating investigative report. Richard Blackstone enters the room with his characteristic confidence, seemingly unaware that his 20-year reign of behind-the-scenes manipulation is about to end permanently. At 58, he carries himself with the assured bearing of someone accustomed to wielding significant power without public accountability. His expensive Armani suit and practiced smile mask the calculating mind that has systematically corrupted Skyline's culture while enriching himself and his allies. "Good morning, everyone," Blackstone says cheerfully, taking his usual seat at Marcus's right hand with complete composure. "I understand we're here to discuss the Sullivan situation and its aftermath. I've prepared comprehensive recommendations for enhanced sensitivity training protocols and revised complaint procedures that should prevent similar incidents." Marcus studies his former friend's face carefully, searching for any sign of genuine remorse, self-awareness, or acknowledgement of wrongdoing. He finds only the same smooth professionalism that once impressed him but now seems sinister and manipulative in light of recent revelations about systematic corruption. "Richard, before we discuss any training protocols or procedural changes, I'd like you to carefully examine these documents." Marcus slides a thick folder across the polished table with deliberate precision. "Investigator Carter has been quite thorough in his review of your department's activities over the past several years." Blackstone opens the folder with casual confidence, clearly expecting routine personnel documentation or policy recommendations. However, his carefully practiced expression shifts dramatically as he recognizes the settlement agreements, complaint files, financial records, and recorded conversations that document years of systematic misconduct. His practiced composure wavers noticeably as he realizes the comprehensive extent of evidence arrayed against him. "Marcus, I can explain all of this documentation," Blackstone begins, his voice losing some of its usual authority. These situations required extremely delicate handling to protect the company's reputation and avoid costly litigation. I was trying to prevent exactly the kind of public relations disaster we recently experienced with Captain Sullivan. Board member Patricia Wong, Skyline's longest-serving independent director and former federal prosecutor, leans forward with obvious disgust. "Mr. Blackstone, according to these records, you authorized over $600,000 in settlement payments to silence victims of workplace discrimination. How exactly does covering up misconduct protect our company's reputation?" "Those weren't victims of legitimate discrimination," Blackstone responds defensively, his carefully maintained facade beginning to crack under scrutiny. "They were mostly disgruntled employees looking for easy financial settlements rather than pursuing proper channels. I saved the company millions in potential litigation costs and negative publicity." Carter, invited to present his findings as an expert witness, methodically lays out the evidence with prosecutorial precision. "Mr. Blackstone, our investigation reveals that you created and maintained a protection network for employees who demonstrated personal loyalty to you, regardless of their professional conduct or adherence to company policies. You systematically rewarded discriminatory behavior while punishing those who reported it through official channels. The evidence proves overwhelming in its scope and detail. Recorded phone conversations reveal Blackstone coaching employees on discrediting complainants and coordinating false testimony. Email threads document him directing favorable treatment toward pilots and staff who provided confidential information about their colleagues' activities. Financial records demonstrate systematic abuse of his budgetary authority for personal and political gain. Marcus's voice carries profound personal disappointment when he finally addresses his longtime ally directly. "Richard, I trusted you like a brother for over 20 years. I brought you into this company when it consisted of 3 leased planes and an impossible dream. You helped me build something I believed we could both be proud of for the rest of our lives." Blackstone attempts one final manipulation by appealing to their shared history and personal relationship. "Marcus, everything I did was ultimately for Skyline's success and growth. These diversity initiatives and political correctness mandates were threatening our operational efficiency. Some of our most experienced pilots and senior staff were feeling marginalized by all the sensitivity requirements and cultural changes." "Our most experienced pilots?" Sophia interjects sharply, her voice cutting through Blackstone's attempted justification. "You mean pilots like Derek Sullivan, who felt comfortable calling passengers racial slurs during routine service interactions? That's your definition of operational excellence and professional competence?" The confrontation reaches its devastating climax when Carter activates audio equipment to play recordings of Blackstone discussing strategies to systematically undermine diversity hiring initiatives. His voice echoes clearly through the conference room speakers, cold and calculating as he describes minority job candidates as quota fillers and provides detailed instructions for disqualifying them during interview processes without creating legal liability. "I've heard enough evidence to make my decision," Marcus declares, his resolve crystallized by the audio documentation of systematic discrimination. "Richard Blackstone, you are terminated immediately for gross misconduct, violation of company anti-discrimination policies, breach of fiduciary duty, and conspiracy to defraud the corporation. Security will escort you from the building within the hour. We're referring your actions to federal prosecutors for potential criminal charges." Blackstone's carefully maintained facade finally crumbles completely as the reality of his situation becomes undeniable. "Marcus, you're making a catastrophic mistake that you'll regret for years. This company won't survive without people who understand how business really works in competitive industries. You're going to destroy everything we built together over politically correct nonsense. No, Richard, Marcus responds with finality. You're the one who is systematically destroying everything we built. You corrupted our core values and betrayed every founding principle this company was established upon. As uniformed security officers arrive to escort him from the premises, Blackstone makes one last desperate appeal to their shared history. 20 years of loyalty and service, Marcus. 20 years of building this company from nothing into an industry leader. This is how you repay that dedication and sacrifice. Marcus stands slowly, his voice filled with absolute finality. 20 years of systematic deception, manipulation, and betrayal of everything I believed you represented. Consider this your repayment for that. 6 months after Blackstone's dramatic removal and criminal indictment, Skyline Airways undergoes the most comprehensive cultural transformation in commercial aviation history. Marcus and Sophia personally oversee every aspect of the reform process, determined to ensure that discrimination and systematic corruption can never again take root within their organization or be covered up by bureaucratic complicity. The revolutionary Diversity and Inclusion Program becomes mandatory for every single employee, from baggage handlers and gate agents to senior executives and board members. Unlike typical corporate training sessions that employees endure passively, these intensive workshops feature real-world scenarios, interactive discussions, role-playing exercises, and measurable accountability metrics that require genuine engagement and understanding. Skyline implements an innovative anonymous reporting system that allows staff to report discrimination, harassment, or corruption safely without any fear of retaliation or career damage. An independent ombudsman, reporting directly to the board of directors rather than internal human resources, investigates all complaints with full authority to recommend disciplinary action up to and including immediate termination for violations. The company establishes the groundbreaking Skyline Leadership Academy, specifically designed to identify and develop minority employees for management and executive positions throughout the organization. The comprehensive program provides personalized mentorship, advanced professional training, leadership development, and guaranteed pathways to promotion for participants who meet established performance standards. Marcus personally interviews every candidate for supervisory and management positions, ensuring that cultural values alignment receives equal consideration with technical qualifications and industry experience. Technical skills can be taught through training and experience, he explains to department heads during leadership meetings. Character and integrity cannot be retrofitted or developed through workshops. The transformation yields remarkable and measurable results across all operational metrics. Employee satisfaction surveys show dramatic improvements in workplace culture ratings, particularly among minority staff members who previously felt marginalized or excluded from advancement opportunities. Customer service scores reach all-time highs as employees feel more valued, respected, and genuinely engaged in their daily responsibilities. Industry recognition follows swiftly and comprehensively. Fortune magazine names Skyline one of the best companies for diversity and inclusion, while the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People presents the company with its prestigious Corporate Leadership Award. Aviation Week features Marcus and Sophia on its cover under the headline, "Leaders Who Changed Everything Forever." Most significantly for long-term success, the company attracts exceptional talent from competitors seeking more inclusive and ethical work environments. Maria Gonzalez, a 28-year-old Latina pilot recruited from United Airlines after being repeatedly passed over for promotion, exemplifies the new Skyline culture and its commitment to merit-based advancement. During her first week as a newly promoted captain commanding international routes, Maria approaches Marcus at the company's annual leadership conference. "Mr. Thompson, I never believed I'd have the opportunity to command major airline aircraft," she says, her voice filled with genuine emotion. 3 different companies passed me over for promotion in the past 2 years despite exemplary performance records. Thank you for creating a workplace where merit and competence actually matter more than politics. Marcus smiles warmly, remembering his own struggles to build a company worthy of such dedicated and talented professionals. Maria, you earned this position through your skills, dedication, and exceptional safety record. We're honored to have you leading our flights and representing our values. The financial benefits of cultural transformation exceed all projections and analyst expectations. Skyline's reputation for ethical leadership attracts major corporate clients seeking to align their travel budgets with socially responsible partners. Booking inquiries from individual travelers increased 37% as conscious consumers actively choose airlines that demonstrate clear, actionable values rather than empty marketing rhetoric. Sophia launches the ambitious Skyline Community Foundation, using company profits to fund aviation scholarships specifically for underrepresented students from low-income backgrounds. The foundation partners with historically black colleges and universities, Hispanic-serving institutions, and community colleges to create comprehensive pilot training programs that address the aviation industry's chronic diversity shortage while building pipeline talent. This isn't corporate charity or public relations, Sophia explains to business journalists and industry analysts. This represents strategic investment in our industry's long-term future and sustainability. We need the best talent from every community and background if we want to remain competitive in global markets. The ripple effects extend throughout the entire aviation industry as competitors scramble to implement similar reforms and avoid similar scandals. Other major airlines actively recruit former Skyline employees to help develop their own diversity and inclusion programs, spreading the cultural changes across the entire sector and elevating industry standards. Derek Sullivan, meanwhile, has been forced to move in with his elderly mother in rural Ohio after losing his family home to foreclosure and exhausting his retirement savings on legal fees. He works part-time at a local Ace hardware store for minimum wage, his commercial aviation career permanently grounded by regulatory action. His story serves as a cautionary tale throughout the aviation industry about the permanent consequences of discriminatory behavior and the importance of professional conduct. This remarkable story demonstrates the transformative power of immediate accountability and the incredible possibility of converting personal tragedy into positive systemic change that benefits entire industries. Sophia and Marcus Thompson prove definitively that when leaders stand firmly against discrimination and corruption, they can create ripple effects that extend far beyond their own organizations and inspire others to demand higher standards. The viral video that captured Derek Sullivan's racist comment became much more than just a moment of individual justice. It evolved into a powerful catalyst for industry-wide reform and cultural transformation. Sometimes the most significant and lasting changes begin with a single person refusing to tolerate intolerance, even when that person holds the authority and power to simply look the other way for convenience. But this story also reveals how discrimination and corruption often operate through systematic protection and institutional cover-up rather than isolated incidents by rogue individuals. Richard Blackstone's elaborate network of enablers demonstrates that prejudice requires organizational infrastructure to flourish unchecked. When companies fail to address bias complaints seriously and transparently, they create environments where discrimination becomes normalized, protected, and rewarded. The comprehensive transformation at Skyline Airways offers genuine hope that meaningful change remains possible when leaders commit to substantive action rather than superficial diversity initiatives or cosmetic policy changes. Real progress requires examining existing systems, changing entrenched policies, and creating robust accountability mechanisms that make discrimination costly and career-ending rather than convenient and profitable. What makes this story particularly powerful and inspiring is how Sophia and Marcus transformed their personal pain and public humiliation into a mission for broader justice and systemic reform. They could have simply fired Sullivan, accepted public sympathy, and returned to business as usual. Instead, they used their platform, resources, and moral authority to address the root causes that made such incidents possible and created sustainable change. Their approach demonstrates that effective leadership means taking responsibility not just for direct reports and immediate subordinates, but for the entire organizational culture that shapes how people treat each other on a daily basis. When leaders model zero tolerance for discrimination and corruption, they give every employee permission to speak up, act with dignity, and demand respectful treatment. This story resonates deeply because it shows ordinary people taking extraordinary stands for fundamental principles of human dignity and justice. You don't need to be a CEO or possess significant wealth to refuse to tolerate discrimination in your workplace, your community, or your daily interactions. Every time someone speaks up against prejudice and holds others accountable, they contribute to the kind of cultural change we witnessed at Skyline Airways. Have you ever witnessed discrimination in your workplace, school, or community? How did you respond to those situations? And what would you do differently with the benefit of hindsight and this inspiring example? The comment section below provides a safe space to share your experiences and learn from others who have faced similar challenges and moral dilemmas. If this story of justice, accountability, and positive transformation inspired you to believe in the possibility of meaningful change, please share it with others who need hope that individual actions can create systemic impact. Like and subscribe for more stories that prove ordinary people can create extraordinary change when they refuse to accept injustice as inevitable or unchangeable. Together, we can build workplaces and communities where everyone receives treatment with the dignity and respect they deserve, regardless of their background, identity, or social status. The Thompson family showed us that such transformation is not only possible but profitable and sustainable. Now it's up to all of us to make their example the standard rather than the exception.